Megan. Just to give you a little background on my journey in RAG before I start the presentation. I was a rep in my first year and a social second vice president on my second year. So I've been heavily involved in planning events or organizing the RAG calendar. This year, as president, the responsibility of planning this unusual year is on me. So I'll be sharing with you what I have learned about planning a full RAG year and how we will adapt to the current pandemic circumstances when a lot of university life will be turned virtual. So as Megan said, I will be taking questions at the end of the session, so you can drop some questions on the chat. Just be sure to include your name and organization. And after 6, I will be in the coffee shop space if we want to carry on discussing any ideas further. So when I started planning our fundraising year, these are the 5 elements I find most important for any RAG. First of all, knowing what events to prioritize is an essential first step. It can be easy to get carried away with so many fundraising ideas and losing track of the most important and effective ways to fundraise that your RAG has been excelling in year after year. Be it running a large challenges program, which is the case at Warwick, where we run 8 challenges every year and promotion takes a huge chunk of our time, or if your RAG specializes in raids and other smaller fundraising events. It's really important to really set your aims straight for your next year and understand what kind of events will fulfill those aims and prioritize those events before anything else. Secondly, in order to know which events to prioritize, you must know your campus well. Examine what has worked and what hasn't in the past, what hasn't been done yet, what fundraising events other societies are doing that you could collaborate in or even just make your own. It's very important to know your audience and adapt to it. If you feel like you have been doing the same thing for too long, don't be scared to make a change. I find that this year, and this is something I've been telling my committee many times since the beginning of quarantine, I find that this year is the one to experiment, because if something goes wrong, we can blame it on COVID. I'm just kidding. No, it's not that straight, but I feel like this year uni life will change, and that means your RAG will go through changes as well. It'll be a lot of experimenting and evaluating the success of past events and how to adapt them to a new virtual audience. The next point is a word that I'm going to use loads in this talk, and I'm so sorry you're going to be so sick of hearing the word balance. But I do believe balance is key to maintain the momentum of fundraising and not to overwhelm your community. University life is extremely busy. We have assignments, lectures, social commitments, some of us have jobs, and then we've got RAG. It's important to keep in mind that just like the members of your committee have other commitments, so do students. So it is not worth overwhelming yourself and others with loads of events, which will ultimately lack in quality. When making a plan, it's key to be aware of what type of events you're holding, how successful they are likely to be, and how much time and energy the committee will be able to provide. In Warwick, for example, we used to hold first dates in first term, but that always clashed with our challenge promotion, and that caused the committee to be extremely stressed when trying to consolidate both fundraisers and promoting both fundraisers as well, trying to sell tickets for first dates and getting signups. This year, we moved first dates to second term, which allowed it to be a lot less stressful and a lot more successful. And in order to keep a balance in the events you run, you must be realistic about the time you have. In Warwick, terms are 10 weeks long, and that may sound like a lot of time, but considering that the planning that goes into a lot of the big events we hold, the week of promotion beforehand, and the large challenges program we also have to promote, we must be very selective about how we use our time, keeping in mind not only having time for the event itself, but for planning and promotion. Those are the 2 most important factors that will make your event as successful as it can be. Finally, and maybe the most important point, is you need to have a good team and be able to rely on it. I feel like having a good team is not only recruiting the best people, but it's also, as a leader, keeping that active engagement with your team and motivating them to be as proactive as possible. A good team for me is one that is very honest with me, proactive and creative. As a very opinionated leader, it is very important for me to make sure my team knows they have to be honest with me and not to hesitate to give their own opinions. I also find that it's very important for me to motivate them to remain proactive, especially during the quarantine and during this past term when it easily felt like everything uni related had come to a halt, including RAG. Thus, I made it my priority to keep engagement with my team through online socials and charity live streams. It's key that they do not stop seeing the bigger picture and the way that everything that we do and all of our efforts are for charity, especially when it's a lot more urgent right now with the pandemic and all the difficulties that charities are going through. Now, I'm going to give you an idea of what a normal RAG year looks like by showing you what our first and second term of last year looked like. So here it is. I have color coded it so it makes a little bit more sense. I find that color coding is a great way to realize how much you have succeeded when it comes to balancing your plan, and will really allow you to reflect on how you have consolidated your different kinds of events. So in this calendar, pink is freshers and freshers related events. Green is challenges, yellow is socials, and blue is other fundraisers. Our term one, as you can see, is always very focused on promoting our challenges and on creating a strong committee. Thus, you can see a lot of green and yellow. We find that socials are very important to keep the engagement of the society members and motivate the committee to then partake in the challenge promotion. As we promote a challenge a week, challenges pretty much consume our social media and all of our activities in term one. So we find that it is very important to keep up socials in order to allow our committee and members to relax and keep them motivated. We don't never want to feel like flyering or kitchen touring is a chore. So we always make sure that our committee members have somewhat of a close relationship. And then obviously there's the huge pink part of freshers. Freshers are so important. I'm going to talk a little bit about more freshers in a minute, but they are that really first chance to get students involved in RAG and promoting our challenges. So it's always a huge focus on our plan over summer. Our term two, on the other hand, looks a little different. It's a bit shorter because our elections take place on Monday, week 9, so the whole committee changes. It is quite challenge heavy towards the beginning, but as we get to the end of the challenge promotion, we really focus on on-campus fundraisers with great focus on our RAG week and making it as successful as we can. RAG week is week 5, the blue one. We also hold less socials, as we are aware that the on-campus fundraisers are very time consuming in terms of planning and are always fun to partake in. For example, we had loads of members of community be in first days taking people tables just because it's fun, seeing the chemistry and seeing who gets put with who. And now that you have seen what our fundraising year usually looks like and how we try to keep it as balanced as we can, I'll go through the main type of events we prioritize and focus on throughout the year. So first of all, there's freshers. That is actually a picture of me in my first year. During freshers, my mom saw the big pink sign and made me take this picture shortly after. I was just buying a RAG freshers barcode ticket, and little did I know everything that would come out of that. Freshers Week is really the first chance you have to get people involved, promote your upcoming events or challenges, and show all the work you have done the year before to showcase what your RAG does. We have found that being active in freshers is essential to set up a future successful year of fundraising. Normally we have stalls all week long with members of committee, we have merch, RAG mags, we hold an exec meet and greet, we have our annual freshers bar crawl, which normally is about 100 people. But this year, all of this will have to change. As Freshers Week becomes even more crucial, RAGs all around the country will have more restrictions in how to interact with freshers. We all know that loneliness is something that always comes out in the beginning of the year. And this year it will be even more prevalent with the lack of human interaction, and it's something that we really have to work on. These restrictions will change from university to university, so I am going to base my knowledge on Warwick. So Warwick has announced that it will have a virtual first freshers. Indoor events are unlikely to happen, and society fairs will all be moved online. This means that first and foremost, our social media platforms and websites will require extensive work, as they will be the first impression for all freshers. No face-to-face interaction will really hinder the way we can get members into society and show our work. So the priority is really to remain active and offer interactive and diverse activities, virtual activities, that will get freshers involved. Having spoken with other societies in Warwick, we have come to the conclusion that live streams, virtual game nights, and socially distanced picnics are probably the direction we will be able to take. It is key to start a conversation not only with your own committee, but with other societies and clubs as well, as we will all be struggling to promote and get freshers involved. This conversation was to share ideas and virtual resources that will be key for us to, for example, hold our online RAG fair. I really urge you to reach out to other societies, not to be scared to start that conversation, and make sure that freshers will still be a priority this year, even though it can feel quite daunting to turn everything virtual and change so much from what used to happen in previous years. And now I just want to also touch upon refreshers. Refreshers is something we always hold in the first week of term 2, and it's basically trying to get freshers who did not get the chance to get involved in RAG in first term back into it in second term if they'd like. And I feel that we always feel like this such crucial work always brings more participants on board, and I feel like this will especially be so important this year when term 2 hopefully will have less restrictions and we'll be doing a more normal refreshers. Now I'm going to talk a bit about the Challenges program and how central it can be to RAG. In Warwick, the challenge programs pretty much defines our whole year fundraising, making up 80% of the money we raise. Thus, we focus on the following 5 points. As I mentioned before, it is very important to set aims for your fundraising year to remain focused, but that is also the case for specific parts of the year, especially the Challenges program. It is key to set realistic, or as realistic as they can be, targets for your committee, being aware of the success of certain challenges in the past, if not in your uni, but maybe in one with a similar campus life or RAG calendar as your own. By setting these targets, for example, we would like to have 15 Kilimanjaro participants, 15 Machu Picchu participants, you'll be able to understand how much time you should be putting into promoting a challenge and the best technique to do so. Having specific targets will also allow the decision to re-promo a challenge or not a lot easier, and understand how successful the promo plan is being in the first place. Of course, it's key to be realistic about your plan, basing it on past experiences or advice from other RAGs. Otherwise, it will often not be accurate and it could lead to disappointment. Having certain targets for each challenge will also be an indicative of who to target when promoting it and planning those communications beforehand. The obvious are freshers. Students who come into uni and aim to join societies, do something different and daring. But within a campus, there are so many other networks that could also have a greater potential of signing up, and targeting those specific audiences will greater your fundraising total and get even more people involved in the society. If you are promoting a trek, why not reach out to the sports societies such as athletics, or promote a challenge by putting up flyers in the gym? When promoting a cycle, reaching out to a cycle society. When promoting a skydive, which is one of the most daring and lowest target challenges, why not focus on second and third years who do not have as much time to fundraise, yet aim to get more involved in societies in their later years of uni? If you're doing a challenge for a charity that has an on-campus presence, such as Amnesty International does in Warwick, why not reach out to them and see if they would want to get involved in promotion or even participating in the challenge? Targeting obviously will always vary from campus to campus, depending on the societies and different groups of each university. But doing this work beforehand will save a lot of time when promoting and will allow you to have a more effective and specific system in place. Hopefully, it will also save precious time from having to re-promo certain challenges. The third step is to keep your committee motivated and engaged in the society when promoting the challenges. It is key to remember that you have a team to support you throughout the year, especially in the promotion of challenges, where it's in the challenge leader's best interest to remain engaged and promote their challenges. However, as I said before, uni life is chaotic, and it can be hard to keep motivated to do something that does not have an obvious reward, and that will take a lot of your personal time. I believe it is key, first of all, to frequently remind your team of why you are doing what you're doing and show them the bigger picture, the potential of getting just 1 or 2 people signed up per person who's promoting the challenge, and the impact that would have had on the cause of the charity it is for. Secondly, it's key to combine these more boring or tiring promoting times with relaxing activities. As I showed you before, term 1 is very socials charged due to this need to combine the time-consuming challenge promotion with time to spend with other RAG members and have a little fun. For example, every Tuesday, for example, after kitchen touring and freshers accommodations about a certain challenge, we would always go for a drink at the bar on campus. Sometimes it was knowing that I would have this reward after the kitchen touring and this time to have a drink with friends that would really get me up and going to kitchen touring in the first place after a long day of uni work. And then when it comes to promotion, it has always been important to keep a balance between physical and online promotion. But this year, it is very likely that the scales will tip in favor of online promotion, as there are many restrictions on being on campus in many unis. This is the year to really experiment with different ways of virtual promotion and understand what kind of posts are most successful in reach. Using different media, such as blog posts, videos, pictures, or stories, can be key in getting students' attention and preventing repetitiveness in your feed, which would lead into boring your audience. Putting together a strong marketing plan is essential for virtual success, but I will be talking a little bit more about making a marketing plan later on in the presentation. Finally, personalized promotion of challenges is essential to prevent boredom and keep up the momentum when it comes to challenge promotion and keeping people excited to know what's coming next. Sharing fun facts about Kilimanjaro or holding a quiz on your RAG Instagram stories about 3 peaks, holding a 24-hour cycle and promoting London to Paris, the possibilities are endless once you start thinking about ways to interact with students based on the challenges that you have chosen and to maintain interest even in these virtual times, when there will be dozens of different societies sharing their content and opportunities at once, and it becomes even more essential to really stand out from the crowd. Once taking these 5 points into account, starting a conversation about how to approach challenge promotion planning becomes significantly simpler and more structured. Now I'm going to be talking about RAG Week, the busiest and often most important week in many RAG's calendar, and really a chance to cram as many crazy fundraising ideas as you can in one single week to raise as much money as you can. That is a picture of our RAG Week schedule this year. I organized most of these events with our president at the time, and I still feel a little intimidated by the 10 events we managed to hold. We had some complications with our committee at the time, and we ended up having to organize this week in only a month, and we still managed to raise over £5,600. We obviously had a lot of help from our team, but that is to show that you do not necessarily need to spend months on months planning a RAG week in order for it to be successful. It's more about the way you plan it. So doing it in a month was not easy, but here are the 4 lessons I learned from it, and that will possibly allow other RAGs to develop a successful plan for their future RAG weeks. So first of all, I honestly cannot highlight this enough. Get other societies and clubs involved in your events. This obviously is not only relating to RAG Week, but it can really amplify the engagement of students in the events and simplify the promotion plan. By having more societies involved, not only will their members be aware of the events and possibly even come, but everyone who knows who follows them on social media will be aware as well, saving time for RAG to be promoting and more time for planning and preparing for the events. Reaching a larger audience is really important about creating a larger network of people. It's really about creating a larger network of people to reach and ultimately raising more money. This year, we got more than 15 societies involved in our RAG week, which ended up doubling the amount of people who participated in the week overall. Secondly, even though your RAG might have their staple RAG week events, it is always worth changing up the events from year to year and reaching out to your committee for ideas. RAG committees mostly change every year, and people with different hobbies and interests will have plenty to add to the society and will bring in a necessary portion of creativity and need for change. Open a conversation with your committee about RAG Week and motivate them to think about the things they enjoy to do in their free time and how to turn that into a bigger scale fundraiser. Other people will likely have the same hobbies and interests, and that would bring even more people interested in the events. This way, the members organizing the event will also be more proactive and more motivated to make it work, as well as have the expertise to make it successful. This year, for example, our event officer loved music and had organized several open mics for his Kilimanjaro fundraiser, so we decided to hold one in RAG Week. I personally love cocktails and knew the president of Cocktail Society, so I reached out to him and we made a masterclass. Finally, our president, Fern, who is actually doing a yoga workshop this week in the Student Opportunities Fest, and who is trained as a yoga teacher, offered to give us 2 free lessons, and that really added something special to RAG Week and that we haven't really ever done before. It is as important to keep the events that have been a success in the past as it is changing it up and personalizing RAG Week to the committee that will be organizing it. Now, the third and fourth points are a bit intertwined. It seems a little bit hypocritical to say less is more with this busy schedule, but what I mean is that by mixing smaller events with bigger ones, the fundraising potential is often surpassed. This mix will allow you to have the time to plan bigger events that require more manpower and time to organize, while at the same time having a full week of fun activities that will always add up to an incredible amount of money raised. Holding a simpler fundraiser like a bake sale, for example, can keep the campus involved in RAG Week, while at the same time giving time for your exec to prepare a more time-consuming event, such as Pie in the Face or Take Me Out. I know this word is a bit repetitive, but knowing how to balance these types of events is key, and knowing that the success of an event does not necessarily rely on its size, but on how confident and committed the committee is regarding it. A passionate committee in a bake sale can go a lot farther than members who feel uneasy in a pie in the face due to lack of prep. Then we have other various types of events that you can plan throughout the year to maintain your campus motivated. Here are just a few that are great to fill in potential gaps. Okay, let's pause it. To fill in potential gaps in your RAG calendar, and that will go a long way when it comes to fundraising and ways to keep your committee engaged and a RAG presence on campus. It is very important to make sure that when planning these events, they don't clash with any other RAG activities, and be aware of how time-consuming they are. I personally think it's very important to hold 1 or 2 of these kinds of fundraisers per term, as they many times target people who have not been super involved in RAG yet, but are interested in going on a first date or pet some dogs because they miss their pets back home. It is truly a simpler gateway into RAG. If you have any questions about any of these specific events, just drop them on the chat and I will do my best to answer them at the end. Now we have reached one of my favorite parts of RAG. As I told you in the beginning, before becoming a vice president or president of RAG, I was a social sec. Socials were what got me into RAG, and I went to the freshers bar crawl, as I said in my first year, got to meet loads of members of committee and other freshers, and that is what I think led me here to talking with you guys today. That is a picture from our bar crawl this year. And before speaking about socials specifically, I just want to make a disclaimer that socials do not necessarily mean they have to involve drinking. It is always very important to us to hold bar crawls as it is to hold sober game nights in order to engage a wider audience and be as inclusive as we can. I believe socials are essential to promote the society, get people involved, and maintain a healthy committee. Socials allow the committee to meet in a relaxed atmosphere and get to know each other better outside of fundraisers or other RAG activities. It is a way to get people closer to each other, which ultimately strengthens your team and motivates them to keep their active role in RAG. It's a lot easier to help in a fundraiser or promote an event when you know your friend will be doing it too. A lot of times when people ask me about RAG and why it means so much to me, one of the words I use a lot to describe it is community, as it allows people from different backgrounds, interest or passion in fundraising, and socials are to create that sense of community. Socials not only strengthen the society by strengthening its community, but by also inviting people into RAG in a more informal scenario. To many people, fundraising can be something that sounds very daunting, and they may feel intimidated in immediately going to an event or joining a challenge. Socials are a great way to ease them into the society and the work that we do. The bar crawls and other socials can even be turned into fun and easy ways to fundraise. In Warwick, for example, we always sell tickets for our bar crawls, which always include a shot of the cheapest Aldi vodka and also a donation to a charity. This year, our socials raised around £500, and 50% of the reps we recruited for our committee were in first contact with the society through this first bar crawl. Now, planning for when events take place, how many people will get involved and how much time it will take to prepare it can be very obvious steps when planning your RAG year and your RAG calendar. An not so obvious one is making a marketing plan for both virtual and in-person promotion of your RAG activities. It is very important when laying out your events to also lay out a promotion plan of when the announcement on Facebook will be, what will follow that announcement, if there will be flyering and when will it be posted and what social media platforms, knowing how many stalls you will need to put events throughout the year and booking that space ahead of time. Being aware and making a plan for these other parts of your events will reduce the stress when it comes to promoting the events and allow you to focus on the event itself, as well as improve your communication with the marketing team, who know exactly what is supposed to be posted or booked and when ahead of time. Creativity is also essential when it comes to marketing, especially in the current times. It's very important to meet up with your team and really brainstorm every idea, no matter how wild it may be. The more the merrier, and afterwards you find ways to tone them down and adapt them to become more doable. However, creativity isn't always an instant process, and sometimes the more you force it, the harder it is for a team to come up with original ideas. So, as I have mentioned many times here today, it is very important to reach out to others who have been put in the same boat as you and ask how they are planning on marketing their events virtually. I think if something good comes out of COVID and this whole situation is the ability to cooperate with others rather than seeing them as competition. Finally, a little tip that can go a long way is in saving time when marketing and is having a template for the design of your content. That is an example of one of our templates in Warwick. Our designer, Clara, developed a simple way to know where to put the title, a picture, where the event will be taking place, and a logo if need be. This way, for every event that needs marketing, she uses this template and just changes colors or fonts if need be. And this allows for a lot of save time, and if a design needs to be made last minute, it reduces a lot of stress. I am now getting to the end of the presentation part, and I just want to speak a little bit about the need for change in RAG. Warwick RAG has been around for at least 52 years. A picture from 1968 was recently surfaced and was sent to us, and it can be really daunting to take the lead of a society that has so much history, and often that makes the society remain stagnant. If it worked before, why change it, right? But I think it's very important to change, to experiment different events and ways of promotion, to add or remove committee roles. Universities change on a yearly basis, especially this year, and it only makes sense if RAGs do as well. For some visual representation, the first logo on the slide, the one above, was our logo from 2014 2016, and the one below is our current one. I think it's very important, first of all, to know that there's no such thing as a perfect formula to your first year, fundraising year, sorry. Even if you have a great fundraising year and it goes super well, there's always room for improvement. And it's very important to be willing to take steps to change while acknowledging that it could be unsuccessful. However, I don't think we should necessarily be scared of that either. Trying to not be afraid of making changes is something that I myself have struggled with in grasping and fully embracing, but I discovered that otherwise you'll never be able to truly develop the society. Even if the change isn't successful, it is still a great way of learning and passing on to the next committee. Finally, as I said in the beginning, if there is a year to experiment and go wild, it's this year. No one has ever had to really deal with what we are dealing with before, and I think it's going to require a lot of risk-taking to keep RAG successful and active in the next fundraising year. Now, I just wanted to touch on a few points regarding the pandemic and the situation we have been given. Due to the uncertainty of the current situation, a lot of universities' policies when it comes to freshers or having promotion stalls are changing on a monthly basis. This means a lot of us will need to make a plan A, B, and C. Plan A, I say, is the most hopeful one. It's the one where things go back to normality and we are able to have a more traditional RAG year with in-person activities. And it is likely to be a plan that resembles more term 2 than term 1. Plan B is the worst case scenario, where everything goes virtual, no physical activity is allowed. Plan C is a more realistic one, I think. It's a hybrid of plan A and B, plus a mix of virtual and physical activities, obviously with social distance if that's still required. This is a plan that I think we should spend more time developing in order to know how to consolidate the virtual activities with the in-person ones. Considering that many universities have moved lectures to online platforms but kept seminars in person, it is the most likely scenario for next year. It seems like a lot of work doing all of these 3 plans, but it will save you a lot of time if any policy changes, and especially from the shift from term 1 to term 2, which hopefully will have less restrictions. Finding virtual alternatives to stay active despite social distancing. I have touched upon before that, but I just wanted to highlight just one final time the potential of collaborating with other RAGs or uni societies, and also the endless online resources that have been developed during the quarantine that will be key to keeping our RAGs alive next term. By simplifying and adapting the event you normally hold, there will be a sense of normality and the fundraising will be continued, even though it feels like nothing is normal anymore. I believe this is a year to get even more freshers involved and recruit more people in trips, as the need to meet new people and human interaction has significantly increased in the last 3 months. I think this is an essential positive mindset to have in these times when it feels like everything is very negative and the restrictions to a normal uni life increase every day. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much for that, Beatriz. That was really, really good and really, really informative. I've got a couple of questions from the chat. So, firstly, Brian is asking, do you have any ideas on how you're going to move socials online? What kind of digital socials can you deliver? If you have any ideas on how you're going to do that.
Again?
Hello?
Okay, now I can hear you. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Sorry, I'll repeat that. So Brian's asking if you've got any suggestions for how you're going to move your socials online next year. Obviously, you said they're a massive part of getting people involved in RAG. So what are you going to do in September?
So we are currently developing a plan where obviously we did a lot of quizzes this past term that were very successful, but a lot of people got sick of them. But if you haven't done many quizzes, I think that's a really good first step. We also did a lot of just casual drinking game nights online where we would all be in a social, and then we'd have 2 social sects with games like Psych and More Likely To and Never Have I Ever and so on. And then we just like all play those games together. We also have ideas to doing game nights online with like Scriblio. I can't really say that, Scriblio. And there's also a website called All Bad Cards where you basically can personalize Cards Against Humanity and just play a game with friends. Obviously, there's Netflix Party, something that's been going around a lot. And then depending on how strict Warwick will be next year, we are planning on having socially distant picnics and even maybe a socially distanced meet the exec during freshers.
Fab, thank you very much. I've got Rai, I think that's how you say it, sorry if I've said it wrong, who's the VP at Bristol next year. They want to know, how do you keep reps interested and involved and engaged throughout the year, and what changes do you think you'll need to make because of next year's restrictions?
Yeah, so the way we keep reps involved is we sort of give, reps can choose if they want to be assigned to a certain role in RAG, and then they really specialize in that role. So for example, we had reps assigned to events or reps assigned to challenges, and then they really help with that specific role in RAG, and then they get some sort of leadership from their exec members, and it's really easy because there's always so much going on, and that way they really have a direction and they know what the next events they will have to help with is. I do believe socials are a big way to get reps involved because it really gets them to meet each other, and freshers always have that really big urge to just meet more people, meet new people. And what changes are going to start this year? So this year I have been talking, so organizing reps is vice president's responsibility, and I have been talking to our vice president for this year about maybe creating a buddy scheme within RAG with our reps to provide more support, so hopefully mental health support when it comes to the reps' well-being, as I think that will be that will take a huge impact this year. And obviously, when it comes to organizing events and how they can help us, will really come down to what the policies will be. Right now, work is pretty much changing them monthly, so it's a bit hard for me to talk about that right now. But it's really about keeping them updated with what's happening all the time.
Thank you. I hope that answered that question. I've got Owain, who's the incoming president at Plymouth, who is asking, what's Ragopoly?
Ragopoly. So this is actually something we've seen Exeter do it. And then we're pitched this by Dig Deep, and it's basically getting people, it could be London, but it could also be somewhere closer to you, and people are in groups, and it sort of works like Jailbreak, where they have to like raise money beforehand, and then they're dropped in this city, could be London, could be somewhere closer to you, and they have to take pictures close to the landmarks. So, and like it's like Monopoly, where each landmark has most points, and they have about like 2 hours just run around and do as many places as they can, and then obviously they will be getting more points the more valuable that statue or whatever it is, and at the end you'll provide some awards. And yeah, it sounds really interesting. It's definitely something we're going to try to organize this year.
Yeah, that's a really interesting sounding social. I think it's a bit different than anything anyone else has done before. And then we've got one last question from an anonymous attendee. Have you got ideas for alternatives to virtual RAG events?
To alter, like fundraising events?
I'm not kind of sure what they mean by that, but just says ideas for alternatives to virtual RAG events.
Okay. So obviously for first dates, which is normally a very work staple event that people know happens every year, we are currently trying to see if we could change that to sort of Zoom calls and how we could make that transition. So that would be the first one that comes to mind. What else can I, because a lot of our events currently are very in person. There is one big event that we are also trying to gonna make work in next term, is doing a virtual taskmaster and getting other societies involved, giving them weekly challenges, and then getting them to fundraise while doing all these crazy challenges. And that will hopefully be something that will get a lot of people involved next year. We are also, this is not so much, I mean, if we're talking about virtual, I'm thinking more socially distanced. But yeah, so I feel like first dates and the Taskmaster are currently our two biggest ideas when it comes to bigger virtual RAG events that aren't like, I don't know, 24-hour events are also a really classic one, or those more sporty events like running 500 miles for 500 pounds, which is a lot of kind of events that a lot of sports clubs have done in Warwick for last term as well.
We've got another question come through, which is a really, really good one. How do you balance between choosing like international projects such as challenges and supporting like local initiatives, local events, things like that?
Yeah. So this year we have actually changed a little bit our challenges program. We have really focused on European/UK challenges, and as we do believe that we just want the safety and we want as much money to be raised and as many people to actually go on their challenges, as most of them have been deferred this year. And we have also made sort of a change into, because we realized that we were supporting a lot of similar charities and that do amazing work, but we decided to try to bring in charities that deal with human rights issues. That's why we brought in Amnesty International. And I feel like it's really about having a balance between, first of all, the charities of the challenges themselves, whether they have a local or a global impact, and then is knowing how to also select the charities that you do for smaller fundraisers. So we always do the Kenilworth fireworks that we always choose. We send volunteers, and we often raise money for a homeless night shelter in Lamington Spa every year. We always have the smaller fundraisers are definitely always for local spaces, and then we are trying to move our challenges program to a point where we can also say that about that. But it's definitely a bit harder because we don't obviously local charities many times don't have the same resources that bigger charities do for the challenges.
There we are. I think that's everything. So thank you so much, Beatriz. That's been really, really amazing. Like I said earlier, if you want to carry on the conversation in the coffee shop, it's going to be table 2. But yeah, if everyone in the chat will join me in thanking Beatriz, it's been really, really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.